It says a participant has enabled closed captioning.
It's
Okay, good.
all
Okay,
right,
so I turned it on.
recording. All right, thanks. And we're recording. Okay, thank you. Thank you, commissioners, for your help on that. Welcome everyone to ANC3F September meeting. We have a wonderful, I don't know if you can see our agenda. If someone could add that to the chat, if you can, I'll try to do that later. If not, because I have the Word version, but we've got commissioners updates, and then we're going to have updates from our committees, and then we'll have a community session for about 20 minutes where those of you in the community could give any updates that you may have, and then we'll hear from Lieutenant Burdett Williams, and then we'll hear from President Ronald Mason Jr., and then we'll hear from DC Water. We'll give an update, and they give us updates each month, as well as Lieutenant Burdett Williams from MPD gives us updates each month. And then we'll vote on a resolution on Hearst Park, and we've got a couple of public space permits that we'll be voting on towards the end of the meeting. And then we'll welcome you to join us again in October, where we'll have more. We'll be continuing the conversation on housing assistance in October. So with that, I will start our roll call with the commissioners. I will start with Commissioner David Christil.
Here.
Commissioner Alex Appa.
Present.
Commissioner Deepa Mehta.
Here.
Commissioner Stan Wall.
Here.
Commissioner Monica Nemeth.
Here.
And Commissioner James Tenderick.
Here.
And all is present. Now moving on with the agenda, I would like to move on to the adoption of tonight's agenda. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight?
Sure.
I move that we adopt tonight's agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, and the motion is adopted on tonight's agenda. Moving on to the next item on our agenda is the approval of our minutes from our August 18th special meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the ANC3F minutes for August 18th?
A motion to approve minutes from August 18th special meeting.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Right. Any opposed? And the motion passes. Moving on to the next item of the agenda is commissioner updates. I will just do this in order. Commissioner David Christil.
Sure. Good evening. I have one update, and if you'll allow me to share my screen, I have a show and tell. I promise it'll be short, and it's a good tell.
Yep.
Let's see if I can do this. Whoops, not that. It'll be a good tell. It just may take me a while to get there. How's that? Can you see that?
Not yet.
Nothing yet. Hang on, I'm almost there. It takes the dinosaur. So this is for those of you that have been following some of our safety measures in transportation. This is a picture of a traffic calming measure on Van Ness Street. As you may remember, residents got together and petitioned for a number of transportation improvements to slow traffic down on Van Ness between Reno and Wisconsin. And the first thing that happened was the speed limit was lowered from 25 miles per hour to 20 miles an hour. And the second thing that happened was these speed tables that were put at the crosswalks at Van Ness and 36th 37th and Van Ness and 38th. So this is a picture of the finished product, and the jury's still out on the impact, but at least it's an improvement. And I want to give a shout out to the neighbors that kind of helped us with this. I also want to give a shout out to Christian Pinheiro, who's been our wonderful Ward 3 DDOT liaison, and has been very helpful in this. And so let's hope that these kinds of measures throughout the neighborhood and in the future will make this place a safer place. So that's my update for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Christil. Commissioner Appa.
No major updates this evening.
Thank you, Commissioner Deepa Mehta.
I have no updates. Thank you.
Commissioner Stan Wall.
No updates for myself nor for the treasurer report. We will have a quarterly report that we will discuss next month. That will be for the quarter ending September 30th. The fiscal fourth quarter will be next month.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Wall. Commissioner Monica Nemeth.
I do not have any updates for this month. Thank you.
And then Commissioner James Tenderick.
Yes, I'm also gonna share my screen really quickly. I only got one announcement. So me and Kathy Sykes have been doing a bunch of community engagement events, some gardening events, and we're actually going to continue doing them. So it's going to be the same type of place. It's going to be starting this Sunday, actually, from between 10:30 and 1:30. We changed time a little bit back because some people kind of come a little later, but it's still the same type of thing. So if you want to get to know your neighbors more, have a chance to be involved in the community more, and sort of like beautify it, these are going to be our dates and times and locations. I'm also going to put on social media as well, so that people have a good understanding of where they're going to be at. But this is just continued chances for more community engagement, courtesy of Kathy. Kathy has been a huge help on that. And yeah, that is my only announcements.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner Tenderick. Now moving on to the next item of our agenda is committee reports. I'll start with the Streets and Sidewalks Committee. Have we got anyone from the Streets and Sidewalks Committee to give an update? Okay, Renee, have we got anyone from the Parks and Watersheds Committee to give an update?
I know we don't. Chair Rosenberg is in the Forest of Maine and is not able to attend tonight's meeting, but says she'll give a report next month. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is anyone from Schools and Universities Committee able to give a report or have a report?
There's nothing new. We didn't meet last month because August was like our break month, but we will meet later on this month. We'll meet on the fourth Monday of the month, so next Monday. If you're interested in attending, please just email me or shoot me a message on here.
And your email again?
Yeah, it's 3f07@anc.dc.gov. I'll put it in the chats.
Thank you, Commissioner Tenderick. And then is anyone from the Housing and Neighborhoods Committee? With an update. All right.
Yeah, I'll just say we did not meet this month, sadly, trying to figure out some of the technical stuff, and then hopefully we'll meet that first or second week in October and try and address some of the housing stuff that's coming up. Yeah, if you want to join as well, I would say just to shoot me an email as well, and we're probably looking to get a member or two more. So I'll put my email in the chat, and I'd love to talk to you commissioners as well at some point. All right, thank you.
Thank you. And now moving on to the next item on our agenda is the community forum. And I'll start with UDC.
Hi, Commissioners. Thank you. Since President Mason is speaking tonight, I'm going to defer all comments to him this evening, or all updates to him.
All right, thank you for that. Van Ness Main Street.
Good evening, everyone. Gloria Garcia from Van Ness Main Street. My main announcement is that we hope to see you all out on the Avenue on Friday evening for Mayor Muriel Bowser's Art All Night. I know we are running from 6 to 11 p.m. and we have doubled the activations, and many of you will be happy to hear that the Crush Funk Brass Band actually will be here. It was a late announcement, but they have confirmed. So just want to see everyone out, hopefully, at all the restaurants up and down. We also have something we've added this year. We have a really big vendor market, but in the driveway between the law school and Gold's Gym, we are going to be doing a community interactive mural that we invite everyone, kids, grown-ups, families, everyone to come and celebrate Van Ness and Forest Hills and Wakefield. And I also want to mention that we are in our fall fundraising campaign. Our fiscal year ends at the end of September. So just wanted to give a shout out. We've already had some really great donations, and I want to thank the community for the continued support. So thank you. And we will see you on Friday night for Mayor Bowser's Art All Night 2022. If anybody has any questions. Also, if you see signs around, we have a QR code. You can easily pull up all the events using the QR code. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And I am definitely looking forward to participating this year. Are you looking for volunteers at all?
Actually, we had a good like 45 people volunteer, and then we have a clutch group of 20 that stuck with us, including Commissioner Tanderick is going to be, out there with us. So, but yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you. We'll have a welcome desk right by our office. So we'll see you there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Is Amir on? Anyone from the mayor's office on community relations and services?
Hello, yes, Amir Garavantep, Mayor's Office of Community Relations, Ward 3. I am I'm in transit right now, so I'm unable to get on the camera, but I do have a few updates from the city government, starting with the fact that we have approved, as of a week or two ago, the bivalent COVID vaccine boosters that are being offered at the 8 COVID centers across DC in each of the 8 wards. And these boosters are, they're bivalent because they have antibodies against the normal COVID, the original COVID, and the Omicron strains of COVID. So this is for people who are concerned about catching Omicron and want to stay as protected as possible. They're being given on demand at any of the COVID centers, and you can find those COVID centers at coronavirus.dc.gov. Another announcement I wanted to mention is the HPAP, the Home Purchase Assistance Program, is receiving a financial expansion that is effective October 1st with the 2023 fiscal year budget. And this program is for first-time purchasing of a house in the District of Columbia. And it's very generous with the amount of money it gives as a down payment assistance. People making up to 6 figures on a single income are in fact eligible for this. So if anyone is interested in buying their first home that includes condos in the District of Columbia, I encourage you to take part in the HPAP process, which you can easily find by Googling HPAP and getting started with a community-based organization that helps you with the process. Moving on, I also wanted to make note of the fact that Kids Ride Free, that program, is also running this year. So if your kid is a student at any District of Columbia school and is a resident of the District of Columbia, they can get a free DC1 card that has smart trip capabilities onto their student card. And if your child has not received it yet, then please contact the school administrator because they should have given them out. But sometimes they haven't gotten to that. And I wanted to also make note of a couple upcoming events. On Sunday, we have Fiesta DC, which is in accordance with Hispanic Heritage Month. So this is a celebration of Hispanic and Latino culture in the District of Columbia. And it's going to be held Sunday afternoon at 7th and Constitution Avenue Northwest is where the parade will begin. So it is a parade, and it's going to start around 1 p.m., line up at 12:30 p.m. And the final event that I wanted to make note of was a affordable housing update. This is not in Ward 3. This is actually down in Ward 8 at Berry Farms, but it's in line with the mayor's affordable housing goal. And this is going to be the first development at the Berry Farms Center. So that'll be Monday at 11 a.m. down by Berry Farms, which if you're not familiar with it, it's next to the Anacostia Metro Station. And that concludes all my updates. Thank you.
Hey, Amir, just to clarify, when you mentioned the kids ride free, isn't that for all students under 18 for like both DC and public charter schools, or is it just DCPS?
Yeah, there's no difference with what kind of school it is.
Okay, so basically like all youth under 18 can apply for this program, correct?
Yes. And I don't think I think the age restriction is actually a bit older than 18. But yeah, students in the District of Columbia can all apply for it. It's just more streamlined in primary schools, especially public schools. But yeah, any student in the District of Columbia under a certain age is eligible for it.
Thank you.
And I just want to share all of the links that, or all of the announcements that Amir made. I have added them all to the chat. So if you're interested, please go ahead and click on those links.
Thank you. Thanks, Amir, for that.
Thank you, Commissioner, for adding that. That makes my life easier.
No problem.
And then have we got someone from Jared Lynch Real Estate Partners?
Hi, yes, I'm Ruth Hong with Jared Lynch. How are you all?
Hi, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Is it okay if I share the screen?
Yes,
A
ma'am.
quick little presentation, and I will be brief. Let's see. What's the screen? Okay. Can you all see that?
Yep.
Perfect. So thank you for having me tonight. Wanted to just really just take a little bit of time to introduce ourselves and just briefly touch on this little piece of property that we have under contract. So we do not own this property, but it's 4400 Connecticut Avenue. Most of you might recognize the address, but it's the Days Inn Hotel site. We were fortunate enough to put it under contract. We don't own it yet. We are in our study period and are just starting to really understand kind of the site itself, do the due diligence studies, and do the geotech borings, the whole nine on what is possible here. But wanted to kind of go ahead and meet with you all, introduce ourselves to you, and hopefully this is a project we can move forward and can continue the dialogue with this ANC moving forward. So just quickly for those of you who may not know who Jair Lynch is, we've been around for about 20 years. We was started by Jair Lynch. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it tonight, but he sends his regards. We do all sorts of development. So we do office development, we do retail, we of course do multifamily. In the last couple of years, we've been recognized for having some of the best lease up buildings in the District of Columbia, and also best interior design for a condominium project we did over in the Navy Yard. And those are kind of examples of some of our market rate projects. But we also do all sorts of other development, including development services where we develop charter schools for like KIPP charter schools we've done. We oversaw the renovation of the MLK Library We build rec centers for DGS, so medical office buildings, kind of the whole nine, including affordable housing as well. So we are a very diverse company in terms of the work that we touch. And then in terms of the things that really drive us forward, it's the creativity, it's the teamwork, it's the diversity. And we'll show you kind of the next slide. The company's been around for 20 years, and we really value everyone's opinions and try to have a really inclusive working environment, and also in our dealings with our community groups, right, in our relationships with the different communities that we work in and that we live in. And then we obviously really do try to excel in what we do and be proud of the work that we have at the end of the day. So get to the next one. So here's just a snapshot of some of the members of our team. Jair's here on the bottom left. We've got Tony, who's our head of our investments, Ulysses, who's been the one really taking the charge and working with the current property owner. And then we've got a number of team members, Kalina and Radhika and Brian. We've got a pretty strong group of people here with some depth in our bench. And we've had a lot of experience developing complex mixed-use projects. Some more simple than others, but nonetheless, every project is really unique, and we're really proud of the team that we're growing, both our project portfolio, but also our team members as well. So we, just from our numbers perspective, this is just like a quick snapshot of some of our stats, right? I mentioned that we've got we do these development services projects. We've done 34 of them to date, including like the charter schools and the like. We've got about $2 billion worth of real estate that's stabilized right now that we are overseeing, and we've got a number of development projects in the active phase right now. One of the things that a lot of people ask, well, why Jair Lynch? I mean, yes, we are the contract purchaser, and these things are usually a competitive process. And both people who sell land to us, but also people that we partner with, they like that we've been in business for quite a while now, for over 2 decades. We've completed a whole slew of different types of projects, but we also have the financial stability. We've got great capital investors. So we bring certainty to the table, right? Being able to execute and not wondering, oh, where's the next paycheck coming from, or where's the next equity dollar coming from? We have that tied up, and a very strong relationship. We've also have our commitment to the community, which I mentioned, and we've also been around for a while. We've seen the region, the district, the neighborhoods grow and change over time, and so we want to grow and keep up with that as well, and really bring our perspective to help bring about the best real estate we can. And because of the way that we've grown and the relationships we've had, we've also established some really good processes to really drive things quickly. We've gone through many rezonings and some by right projects, but whatever it is, whether it's for a client like WMATA or if it's for our own investors, we have kind of that experience and those processes in place to really move projects forward as efficiently as positively as possible. A couple of, just real quickly, just some snapshots of some of our work if you haven't seen it. You can obviously go to our website, which is jairlynch.com, but this is Kalina, our success story here. So Kelvin, this is in the Navy Yard neighborhood. We built 312 apartments here, rental apartments, as well as a kind of a second tower called the Envy, which is a 127 unit for sale condominium project. And this is literally right behind Nat Stadium. So we have a great rooftop terrace that overlooks it, and you can actually see straight into the ball field. So it's pretty cool. But this is unique in that it's in a very big bustling neighborhood. It's got the for sale component, the rental component. It had an alley closing. It's got 50,000 square feet of retail, which we actually leased up during the pandemic really well. And so we've got some really great retailers there now. And so we've got that experience in a mixed use setting, also with the retail and going through, you know, hard times even through the pandemic. And this is Kalina, who really shepherded that project through. So we're really proud of the work she brings to the firm. Another one of our residential projects is Anthologies. This is over on the H Street corridor. This was 307 apartment units with some ground floor retail. One of the things that we're really proud of here is that this is the first Starbucks in the country that catered to deaf architecture. So this is close to Gallaudet University. And so we had Starbucks really partner with them. And so if you walk into this store here and you want to order something, you actually need to be able to use sign language and say what you need to order, or you need to write it down or type it out on your phone and show it to the baristas and the cashiers that work there, because they are all, you know, part of the deaf community. So we really try to think about the community, bring them together and have them be part of the story of what we're creating. This last one I want to show you is a project that's currently under construction. It's in the Tacoma neighborhood. This is a 129 unit senior affordable buildings restricted to residents 55 and over. We're in the throes of getting our C of O right now. So we're waiting on those last couple of inspections and really trying to get people moved in. But this is an all affordable development, also has some permanent supported housing units in here. And this was obviously made possible through tax credits and the HPTF funds from the mayor's office and the bond. So it's a great partnership, and it shows that we obviously do care very much about affordable housing as well. And you know, both renovation projects, but also new constructions like this one. And this is Tochi, who's been really working hard to, he's from Nigeria, and he's been working really hard to get all of our units walked and punched and making sure that the building's in tip-top shape for our residents that are going to be moving in next month. And then, you know, kind of one of the last things I wanted to just share with you is just our process and how we go through it. And, you know, we want to become a part of your community. We've got some team members that actually live in your ANC, but we want to, you know, make sure that our success is measured by what you would like to see in your mission and what your goals are. And we want to make sure that we are responsive to the needs that you have. Our delivery process, and this kind of gets a little bit into the nitty-gritty of the development process, but you know, we're at the very beginning. We're in kind of that beige first arrow acquisition, you know, interim hotel operations and programming. We're really just starting to figure out what can actually happen, what is feasible, what's it going to cost, you know, the whole nine, and really looking into from there, moving on into doing some more detailed analysis, getting into entitlements, getting more involved with the community, coming back to you with, you know, real concrete drawings and plans and traffic studies and the like. And then, you know, post the entitlements, then getting into more specifics on the pre-development phase with the design of the building and what the retail is going to be, working on starting to lease that up and getting our permit drawings ready, getting the contractor on board, and then getting into construction, which you guys all know about, and then, you know, completing it and leasing it up and getting it into a operating, you know, stabilized status. So that's our overall development process. But again, we're very early on right here. We're just still studying the site. We don't even own it yet. So, but wanted to just kind of bring us to your attention so that you, hopefully that this is something that we're going to be able to move forward with soon, and we could come back again next month with a much more, you know, concrete update. So one of the things that we wanted to kind of, I'll just share this real quickly if I can. It's not progressing. I'm having a little, one of the reasons why we wanted to come a little bit early is because if you know the site, the Days Inn is along Connecticut Avenue, and then like the back side of it, I don't know why my screen is hung up, but there's an alley, and then there's a parking garage that goes up against Yuma Street. And so just from looking at the site and being able to maximize a land area, we know that there's going to be two things we're going to want to come to ask for your assistance on. And one would be closure of the alley, but don't think of it as a closure of the alley in the sense that it's not ever going to be open again, but just temporarily really closing it on paper so that we could then have the ability to build under it and then bridge over it. There would still always be a public access going across the alley, like on the ground level. But we know that that would just make whatever parking garage that we do underground much more user-friendly and efficient and whatnot. So that's one thing that we're going to be further diving into. And then there's also a building restriction line that would also need to potentially get pulled back. And it's not going to really change what you experience on the streetscape. It's kind of this line on paper that needs to kind of be moved so that we could have a better footprint, have good size buildings and more efficient courtyards and the whole nine. So that would be something that we would be seeking the ANC's support on as we move forward. And I'm sorry, my screen is just totally frozen. I had a little graphic I could show you, but it's just, it's not really advancing for me right now. So that's all I really had to share. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. And my contact information is, I think if I'm still sharing, it's stuck on the screen, or maybe it's not anymore. So
Yeah,
And
if
you're
you
not
could-
sharing anymore.
okay.
Yeah, you can just verbally say what it is. I helped you out and just stopped sharing, but thank you so much. for that.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's ruh@jairlynch.com. And my name is Ruth Hong. So happy to correspond with anyone. We also have our website if you wanted to take a look just to see what we're all about. But
Thank-
the hope is to come back in October with some more concrete information to present.
Thank you. So we'll have commissioners' questions, then we'll have the community, but just everyone keep in mind that we will be requesting Jair Lynch to return. They'll be coming back. So I don't want to spend too much time on this because you'll come back and you're just giving us a brief on what it looks like in 2023. But you're just giving us a heads up right now. So right now we have I've got Monica Namath, and then I think I have, right now I see Monica Namath's hand raised.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner David. So thank you for this presentation. This has certainly been interest to our community. I mean, let's talk about what's going to happen at 4400 Connecticut. And you have an impressive portfolio. And I know you're in the very preliminary stage. You've already talked about closing off the alley temporarily while you do the construction. But what are you looking at for the property itself? Is this residential, commercial, mixed use? Can you tell us, just in general, what exactly is the vision for that property, since at this point the community doesn't know? So
Yes,
just give us.
absolutely. Fair question, because I did say we do a whole bunch of stuff, right? So
So
vision.
what is your preliminary thoughts? Knowing that,
Yeah.
again.
Absolutely. Our preliminary thoughts is that it would be mixed use, but mixed use more limited to residential and retail. So not planning a big office building or, a charter school at this location. I mean, really focused on residential and, with some ground floor retail uses.
And a huge topic of concern, especially in Ward 3, is, of course, affordable housing. So any thoughts along affordable housing? And
yes, absolutely. I mean, I think the problem is we're just so early right now, but yes, affordable housing is at our forefront. We think about it. I mean, we like the Tacoma project that I mentioned. I mean, we do 100% affordable projects as well too. And as well as market rate units with inclusionary zoning units. So it runs the gamut, and we're evaluating all of that for this site. And once we have more analysis complete, and hopefully the site really under control. I mean, we have it under control under contract, but we don't own it yet. We'll definitely have a better handle and feel for what's going on and what the program will be once our due diligence study is completed.
And so you're in a contract and you're doing your analysis and your study and such. Timeline, timeframes, what do you anticipate being how long do you anticipate your study period being? When do you anticipate closing and such? Roughly, from start to finish, what do you anticipate your timeline being? Just
Start to finish, roughly, I would say right now, we're in our study period. We've been in it for about 30 days. I think we've got another 30 days or so left. Then we would go to our investment committee, and then, hopefully everything is still, penciling and we get the approval to move forward. Closing on the property, I think it's 45 to 60 days after that. If I remember the contract specifically, that might be a little bit long, might be a little bit short, but it's around that kind of time frame. And then we have to go through, a whole, entitlement process, a design process, and, depending on the route that, we go, I mean, these things do take time. It could take 12 months to go through an entitlement with the rezoning. It could take 18 months. They kind of tend to run the gamut depending on, what the plan is, what the interaction with the communities, what the Office of Planning's reactions are. We obviously have to go to DDOT about the alley and all that sort of stuff too. So there's a number of, pre-development activities that we have to get through, or even really pre-development activities we need to get through before we can kind of say, hey, we're ready to, put a shovel in the ground. But I would say, cautiously, it's probably, let's just say a year to 18 months for any kind of entitlements, and then probably another, let's say 12 months to design it, permit it, and get a shovel in the ground.
Commissioner Wall has a question.
thank you.
Thank you, Chair David. Ms. Hong, thank you for coming to speak with us about the project. I think we're all very excited to see something happen to the day's end, that it's not continuing its current operation, and seeing something that's going to contribute to revitalizing our corridor. As has been stated a couple times, there are a number of concerns with regard to affordable housing, and there were a couple of questions in the chat regarding some of the Gyro Lunch Company's past work in delivering affordable housing units. Can you speak to your company's track record on affordable housing, and what strategies you might be using to try and incorporate affordable housing in this project?
Sure. I mean, as I said, it runs the gamut. So in terms of, affordable housing, and, we also use a term called attainable housing, right? Because it's just a little bit different definition for different people, right? Depending on your socioeconomic status. But we do have an attainable housing strategy where we will go by existing naturally occurring affordable housing developments, and they're not restricted at a certain rent level because there's a rule or a tax credit or something. It's just naturally occurring, and so we purchase those, and then we renovate them and we keep them as affordable housing. So we like to keep them anywhere from, it can range from 50% of AMI up to 100% of AMI, depending on what the region is and what the needs are of that. But we've been doing that all around this Washington DC metro area, not just in the district, but also in Maryland and Virginia. And we recently did pick up a couple of pieces in Atlanta. So that attainable housing strategy is very near and dear to our hearts and a big core part of our investment strategy. Now, this one is obviously different. We're not going to renovate the Days Inn and turn it into an apartment building, but the plan would be to raise this one and put some new development here. And so the affordable housing here, I mean, in the past, what we've done is, like the Tacoma Park project, the Entwine project, that's a subsidized deal with the District of Columbia, where you're getting tax credits, you're getting the taxes and bonds, and you're bringing tax credit investors into the project to help finance the deal and to be able to bring rents down to below to the lower levels, like 50-60% of AMI, or even lower, like some of the permanent supportive housing units are at a even lower AMI level. And so it varies. And then we've got, market rate projects that that are, at market rate, but they also have inclusionary zoning units, and that's, anywhere from, it can be between 8% to 15% of the units being affordable. And so it tends to just be a big swath of what is possible, and we're going to evaluate all of that here to see what makes sense based on the size of the building, and what can fit on here, and what can be really financed, and obviously work with you all to see what are the desires of the community in terms of the affordability mix and percentages.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Ruth.
appreciate it.
Yep, and so then we'll have Commissioner Christel, then Commissioner Appa, and then Ryan Keith, and then we'll close the discussion because I've got to move on with the agenda. But we'll have you back because
Yes, I will be back.
Yeah, we need to keep the conversation
Absolutely.
going with you.
And I'll have more refined information as we, move forward and we get through our studies and we have these conversations to share with you all. So I'm sorry if I sound like I'm being kind of vague and all over the place,
Yeah.
but I just don't know right now.
No problem. But because we also have two other people who's presenting right after you, and so I just need to move on with the agenda. But Commissioner Christel, and then Commissioner Appa, and then Ryan Keith.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Wall asked most of my questions, but I do want to give a shout out to them. I know I worked in Arlington County for about 15 years, and there was essentially the single largest rental property that was left in the county. It was a market affordable development called Barkoff Apartments. And we were always worried about, when the family decided to sell that, what would happen. And the county partnered with Jared Lynch and Amazon and a bunch of others. So they're going to be responsible for saving that property and preserving the affordability on that site. It was 1,300 units, market affordable units, or naturally occurring housing. Immigrants from all over the world live there. And I think that the county partnered with Jared Lynch is really a statement to their quality and their ability to work with the community. So I'm really excited about this. I know there's a lot of questions that we'll all have, but I think this is, of all the development partners they could have chosen, I think this is a step in the right direction. So we look forward to working with you on this as you move forward. So thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're very proud of that Barcroft development and really working hard to, bring all of that to reality for the residents there.
My question is really quick. For the residential aspect, is it apartments or is it going to be condos?
We are looking at rental apartments.
Rental apartment. Okay, thank you.
Ryan?
We can move on.
All right, thank you, and thank you, Ruth. I know I have Pleasance Saliki of Iona Senior Services, and then Tasha Skolnick of Councilmember Bond's office.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Pleasance. I'm here with my children, so I will not get on camera and show you us all together. But Iona, in the 47 years that we have been in the community, have not had a community outreach coordinator. And so I'm really excited as of June to be here and to just be a community liaison to any aging adults, people you care about in our community who might benefit from some of our services. We have a new peer-to-peer friendly visitor program where an aging adult 50 and over can be a part-time employee at Iona to go be a friendly visitor for an aging adult in our community. As you probably can imagine, we have a lot of isolated aging adults right now in our ward. And so we also have tons of volunteer opportunities in around town DC. So my email's in the chat, and I'm happy to meet with anyone about our programs and offerings. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Tasha.
Thank you, commissioners, and good evening, everyone. My name is Tosha Skolnick. I work for Councilmember Anita Bonds on the Committee on Housing. I also happen to be a 3F resident, so I'm particularly excited to share some brief community updates. In terms of recent legislation that's been passed, I want to echo what Amir said about the home purchase assistance program. We've increased the maximum amount of assistance from 80,000 to 202,000. So we definitely encourage people who are eligible to consider that program if they're looking to become homeowners. We've also expanded the housing incentives that are available to educators working in the district. That includes teachers and principals and UDC professors. Would also like to encourage any homeowner who's experienced a financial hardship from COVID to look at the Homeowners Assistance Fund if you're having trouble with mortgage payments or utilities or other housing related expenses. We've also recently passed a transparency bill for the Housing Production Trust Fund and created a commission to plan for an annual Juneteenth holiday celebration and to coordinate year-round education about the holiday. The Committee on Housing has a couple upcoming hearings that I just wanted to point out. This Thursday, September 22nd, we're holding a hearing on one bill that will amend the condominium warranty claims process and two bills that will they have to do with homeowners associations and condo associations governance. Next Thursday on September 29th, we have a roundtable for 3 board of directors nominees to the Housing Finance Agency, and also a hearing on a bill to establish a district waterways management authority. So please check out the committee's YouTube page or the council's website if you're interested in watching these hearings, and you can feel free to write to the committee. I'll put our email in the chat if you're interested in testifying at any of them. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for that update. Are there any other updates from the community? Seeing none, I will move on to the next item on our agenda, and that is an update from Lieutenant Burdette Williams from MPD.
Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening.
Opening up my Internet Explorer. Okay, so thankfully we are still trending downward with our crime over the past 30 days to date, from August 20th until September 20th. And we're seeing a small uptick in theft from auto throughout the Connecticut Avenue corridor. In a few cases in the southern part of Forest Hills, about 3 of them, but the majority of which are still up and down, north and south on Connecticut Avenue. Our obvious next prevailing crime would be our thefts, and our retail thefts are what are leading. And our 2 motor vehicle thefts were actually scooters that were chained to a fence on 2 separate dates on Connecticut Avenue. So no 4-wheel drive vehicles were stolen out of our PSA in the last 30 days, which is really good news. We've been doing a lot of traffic enforcement, specifically targeting places where delivery drivers will leave the vehicle running unattended with the keys in the car, and people will hop in and drive off with those vehicles. We also instituted our deployment plan for all of our schools, and the 2nd district is responsible for ensuring we have coverage at all of our elementary schools here in our PSA. So you will occasionally see an officer interacting with the kids crossing, through the crosswalk. You'll see traffic enforcement for stop sign and speed in and around, some of the areas, not specifically right in front of the door. We like to get folks coming into the area to slow them down. We have a complement of officers deployed in the before school and then again after school, doing that traffic enforcement and pedestrian safety enforcement, adhering to the Mayor's Vision Zero plan. We also have our truant officers out deployed every day during the school hours. And yesterday we picked up 3 truants that were not in school. They were playing and ended up in somebody's backyard, and our officers stopped them, and we ended up turning them over to the mother and making proper notification to these schools. So that was a successful resolution with those young fellas. And we're also going to be able to get them some additional support from our youth division, get them enrolled in some programs, which is going to be really good. Because I think they're going to definitely benefit from it. And let's see, what else have we got? Still no word from CVS as far as participating with, theft reduction plans to try and get, on board with the department and try and solve some of these cases. So we're still struggling working with them as a partner, which is actually still pretty disappointing, unfortunately. And I would say that's, oh, I'm sorry, one last thing. I just submitted 4500 Connecticut Avenue to the Office of the Attorney General with documentation supporting a request to have them evaluate that property to determine if it's eligible for submission as a nuisance property. And that would be a packet that they just got it yesterday morning from me because I just got back to work. Unfortunately, I was out for a few weeks after a traffic crash off duty where I was injured. So I was able to get that package turned into them, and I don't know what the turnaround time is. I know that they still have to pull all of their reports and compile their components and then submit that to a judge for review. So as soon as I hear something, obviously I'll pass it along to my ANC partners, and they can distribute that information as accordingly. Additionally, I asked for a follow-up on 2950 Van Ness, and management has reached out to the OAG's office with information, and they're working with the OAG's office to correct some of their deficiencies in that apartment building. And if you recall, that was the apartment building where we had the active shooter, and we ended up recovering multiple firearms out of that building, as well as a few months later having the unfortunate domestic violence case where the gentleman, kidnapped his girlfriend at gunpoint and took her out of the building. So those two high-profile cases were what we believe was enough catalyst to submit that building. And that property's been very supportive, responding back to the OAG's office and working with my officers. And the last touch on 4500 Connecticut is that I have a sign-in book that I just had installed today where my officers have to go in and sign the book, check in with the front counter, make sure they don't need any support from MPD, so that we're doing a little more enhanced operations with them, because we're seeing a lot more domestic violence cases coming out of that building. Granted, we do get noise complaints, but the focus is really the violent crime or any crime that's domestic related that we're dealing with, we're responding to. So we're providing services to the victims of domestic violence that live in any of the buildings, but specifically in that building, we're trying to make sure that we're reaching out to some of the young ladies that we're interacting with. Most recently seems to be a younger female victim profile that we're engaging with, unfortunately. So property manager has been very forthcoming, very supportive. They're providing barring notices while we're there. If we make an arrest, we're standing by to make sure that that barring notice is being issued to the offender. As long as that person's not on the lease, they're in compliance by issuing it. And we're informing the defendants that they are barred from the location. And just the other day, we did make an arrest for one of those offenders, returned back to the crime scene, tried to get back in the building. He was stopped. The police were called and he was placed under arrest. He was charged with violating the barring notice as well as the original domestic violence crime. Thankfully, he never made it up to the address where the victim lived. And of course, we notified her after the fact, which she was very thankful for as well. So with that, open the floor if anybody has any questions for me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that update. And I'm glad that you're back. I hadn't realized that you were hurt. You were in an accident. So I'm glad that you're back and you've recovered. Sorry to hear that.
Thank you very much.
Is there anything, before I get to questions, is there anything that we can do in terms of education surrounding domestic violence? Because I know there are services available and there are pamphlets, but does it make sense to leave that at front desks at different, at apartment buildings? just because that impacts everyone. What are your thoughts on that?
Domestic violence is definitely a very sensitive, intimate crime. And we do leave pamphlets. We have community outreach officers that do bring literature around, and we do strategically place those in locations where victims may frequent, public spaces. But one of the things that our officers always do is they always provide access to those resources to victims, even if there's not a crime. So if we just respond for, two people arguing, and it doesn't rise to the level of making an arrest or an actual crime occurring, we're still offering those services, and it's through DC Safe. So essentially what these folks are offered are an advocate that they can reach out to, and they're provided immediate access to all city services. I think education is obviously very important. Sometimes victims of crime don't want to report, or they're afraid to, or they're not able to. So we kind of have to tread lightly when we start kind of pushing that narrative. We might actually be endangering that person without even realizing it, depending on who's with them. So that's one of the reasons why we just ask that if you even suspect and we think that we need to engage or interact with them, we have different methods. We'll knock on a door, for an example, and pretend that we're there with, maintenance or something like that, just to see if we can engage with the person that we suspect might be a victim of a crime or unable to report that crime because they're being monitored. So there's those types of advocacy avenues, as well as your neighbors are really, if you hear stuff going on, just call us. That's why we're there. And my officers will absolutely exhaust all resources to get in there and help, whoever sounds like they might be in need, because oftentimes those are the calls for service that start that program moving and make change in that family.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to Commissioner Appa, then Commissioner Mehta, and then a quick question. Do they call 911, or is there a different number to call for a domestic violence situation?
Always 911.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Williams. I wanted to share some data with the community that Lieutenant Williams had shared with the commissioners, if I may. And I'd love for you to speak to, you guys are doing such amazing work, and let me make sure I'm sharing the correct screen.
Yes, you're sharing.
Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
I appreciate all of you guys also. Thank you.
I appreciate all the work that you're doing. And I'd love to talk a little bit about, since you've been on board, and also just comparing last year to this year. I know there's been a lot of heightened awareness around crime in the neighborhood. People are very concerned. And I'd love for you to speak to the data that you pulled between last year, comparing last year's time period to this year's time period, and some of the things that you're seeing, because I really think that hopefully will help people feel a little safer in terms of what is actually going on in our neighborhood, as founded by the data.
Right. So the data that I pulled for you is what we call a year-to-date crime report, and that's all of the crimes that we track from January 1st, 2020 until I forget what date I send that to you. You'll have to forgive me. I know.
Sure. Are you able to see my screen? I don't know. Maybe it's not sharing my screen.
My vision's not that great with these glasses.
Oh, no, sorry. Yes. Let me, Claudia, are you able to see it?
Yeah, I mean, it says 8:30. It's,
Okay, good.
8:31. It's
but what you're looking at on screen is a significant reduction in crime. Overall, totality wise, all of our leading categories that we monitor, which will impact how we deploy our officers, where we deploy the officers, and also the arrests that we've made in those, in that genre of crime. For an example, if we make an arrest in a burglary, we don't just look at that one case. We look at, yes, I'm sorry, that is a typo. that we look at any burglary fit that offender's profile. And we make an attempt to link that, offender to those types of crimes, and it not necessarily be in our particular PSA. So we may catch a bad guy 2 or 3 PSAs away from 203 and end up closing out some 203 cases, which over time reduces crime because now that bad guy's not out committing crime. One of the other things that all of the lieutenants do here at the 2nd District is any offender who's arrested for one of these crimes that we track, specifically for me, I track burglaries, theft from autos, thefts, and motor vehicle thefts. Any person that's arrested for that, I put into a database, and as they move through the criminal justice system, I get alerts. So if they're released, I know, and I notify my officers on all the shifts. So there's 24-hour, hey, bad guy number 1 is back out. He did 7 robberies over the span of the last 5 years. Let's make sure that he's not up in our PSA doing any kind of robberies, or if he likes to hang out in our PSA. Then we also work with our partners at Court Services and Offender Supervision to make sure that we're doing unannounced visits. If they're a person who's a high profile offender, that offers a lot of tools for us. So that combined with just really dedicated patrol officers and traffic enforcement has produced a reduction in crime. As we move forward through the year, we're still trending down across the entire 2nd District. And that's based 100% on how our commander and command staff, how we deploy our officers, where we deploy them, and the types of arrests that we've been able to make and successful prosecutions on some of those big cases. So, but I will say, as I've said before in every single meeting, numbers do not always reflect what we interact with on a day-to-day basis. Meaning, just because the numbers are down does not mean that we're not still, as a community, engaging with people that may be up to something that they shouldn't be up to. So I always encourage everyone to report what they see, call 911, when you're safe. Don't put yourself in unnecessary danger. If you can get a lookout, get the best lookout that you can. And if you're not sure, call us anyway. We love to come out. And if there's nothing going on, great. If there's something going on, even better, we catch them. So that's pretty much the nexus of what we do every day.
I appreciate that, Lieutenant Williams. And, I think as the community knows, Lieutenant Williams has been joining our calls for a while now, as Commissioner David said, and we had Commissioner Amadeo on the calls before that to provide crime reports. So we're going to continue to do this. And, although not everything is shown in the data, as Lieutenant Williams said, I hope this demonstrates that the crime is trending downwards as to what some of us have experienced in our community. And hopefully between the comments that Lieutenant Williams has shared, this provides some level of comfort that we are going in the right direction. So with that, I'll yield the floor.
So I want to answer one question I just saw pop up about sex crimes. The sex assault category or sex abuse category incorporates misdemeanor, so unwanted touching, all the way up to and including rape, what we call rape in layman's terms. It's a category that tends to fluctuate based on our student population, but also based on our visitor population. So because we have fewer interactions with persons that engage in sex abuse on the street level, sometimes some of those cases work out from the Metro Center and they end up topside, and we're taking those reports. So I want everyone to understand that the sex abuse category is, we obviously track that, but I'm sorry, visitor population, meaning if we have visitors from out of town and they're in the 2nd District, going to a commercial area or visiting family or friends, or their students checking out one of the colleges, they may stay in this area. They may work for the embassy temporarily. they're not, permanent residents. They're here for maybe 30 days or 60, 90 days, those types of situations. And then we also have the entire Connecticut Avenue corridor, which is filled with metro stops and bus stops. So we have offenders, moving between Maryland and DC on that corridor as well. So some of those cases, are a result of that. But the majority of our cases in 203 are unwanted touching, where the bad guy walks up and touches, the victim's buttocks or breast area. And that constitutes a sex abuse case.
Okay, Commissioner Meta and then Commissioner Wall.
Lieutenant Williams, thank you so much for joining and for your consistent efforts to bring us information, and to your team for responding. I have a very discrete question around what happens after cases are put together. In other words, after an arrest. As I think probably most people on this call know, the U.S. Attorney's Office prosecutes criminal offenses by those 18 and above, and those committed by under 18-year-old offenders are handled by the Attorney General's office. So my question, Lieutenant Williams, is, well, first there's a comment and observation. I am hearing more and more frustration from folks in my SMD around arrests that are made, even where there are videos showing a crime being perpetrated, like from a home, security camera, and then the resident finds out 2 months later in trying to follow the case after the arrest that the U.S. Attorney's Office just simply declined to prosecute despite clear, tangible evidence. So my question is there anything that folks should be doing around these cases to increase the likelihood that a crime, particularly one where there's really clear admissible evidence showing a crime being committed, to ensure that they get prosecuted? Or is it just simply out of our hands after it leaves the MPD because it goes to the federal level?
I think the best way for me to answer that question would have to be to refer that to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Prosecutorial merit in cases that we present, we're not authorized to make an arrest unless we have probable cause.
Right.
When we meet that burden and we submit those cases, I can't speak in general terms on whether or not cases are prosecuted, because I know there's a lot of consideration given to a variety of, factors as to whether or not a case will move forward through that judicial process. I can only speak to what we do here at the district level and at the detective level.
Thank you, Lieutenant Williams. So it's basically out of your hands, right? Once MPD turns it over to either the DC Attorney General's office or the U.S. Attorney's office.
Fairly fair to say it's out of our hands, so much as there have been times in my career where, we've made an arrest and, for some reason the case may not have gone forward. And we do have the opportunity, some felony cases, to re-bring that case if we discover additional evidence or additional victims or witnesses. So that's why I'm saying it's not fair to paint that with a broad stroke brush and say it's out of our hands. Each case is unique. And we also have to consider the cases that we're looking at in our ANC. They're not felony cases. And those felony cases that we are looking at have been prosecuted. Make those captures, those robberies and assaults with a dangerous weapon over the past year, every single case has gone to court. Now, when we start looking at shoplifting at CVS and you're catching a homeless person that walks out with a bar of soap, no, the reality is most likely that case will not go forward with prosecution, but the person will get a stay away. When they violate the stay away, that case will be prosecuted because now they violated a judge's order after they've been given an opportunity to not go reoffend. So again, that would be one of those things where I don't like to paint with a broad brush when we talk about crime, because I don't think that's very fair. I don't think it's fair to the attorneys, and I don't think it's fair to us in the community, because it's a little deceivious to kind of say it that way.
Understood. Thank you. And Lieutenant Williams, I'd like to just come back to you offline separately to follow up on a couple of particular cases, but not certainly not in this forum when we have other agenda items pending. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we have Commissioner Wall. Then I'll have to move on to the agenda because we've got President Mason on. So I would like to, and you'll be back next month. So to keep us up to date. Commissioner Wall.
Thank you, Chair David, and thank you so much, Lieutenant Williams, for all of your work and your commitment and partnership with the ANC. And it is really great to see that there has been a shift in the trend in terms of crime that we're seeing in the community. One question I would have is that in past conversations with your predecessor as well as the commander, there's been discussion with regard to MPD resources and how that might have been constraining your ability to do all of the different types of kind of proactive and intervention work, as well as researching and closing cases. So I'm curious to hear, has that changed in terms of are your resources in a better place than where they might have been a year ago? Or is that still a challenge to the department and to your?
It is. We are receiving newer officers that have graduated in the past couple of months. We've had several officers be assigned, from the academy, and they're still in training. So that process from graduation to hitting the street here, and then ultimately, passing that training program, I think it's, forgive me, I'm like 25 years into this, but I think it's somewhere in the 3 to 4 month range, roughly. The number of officers, however, totality wise, department wide, is still down. We're improving, but it's still not where we used to be. One of the bigger hindrances, I think something that definitely, I work day work, it's definitely been an eye opener is the situation with our schools and pulling the officers out of the schools. So I'm now supplementing, patrol officers on the day shift with a few schools here in the 2nd district. So we don't have those resources, those school resource officers available. And, that was a legislative change. So we've obviously overcome, we'll adapt and overcome and move forward, still provide, 100% service, but it definitely changes how we, deploy. It doesn't change what we do. The good thing though is that, we've had some really brilliant technology advances that, in my experience, like I said, almost 25 years of doing this, going from pen and paper to our officers walk around with handheld PDAs where they can run criminal information, they can get photographs of bad guys, they can send emails, they can make phone calls right there on the scene of these investigations. I've seen that turn around a crime scene much faster, where we're able to get closures so much quicker. The communication systems that we're using, we're sharing those systems and information with our other law enforcement partners. Specifically for me, it's Metro Transit and Montgomery County. That addition is just phenomenal. And then most recently, we were able to add the license plate reader program from Maryland into our system. So now we're getting those PG County hits. So when the bad guys come through our district and commit crime and then run into Maryland, we can still track them. So, situations like that are definitely augmenting the lack of manpower. And thankfully, we haven't had as many First Amendment assignments this summer. So that definitely helped us out a lot. I like more officers. That would be great. And I think we're moving in the right direction. The mayor's definitely done a great job with getting us, additional resources and officers hired on.
Thank you so much for that, Lieutenant Williams. We've got to move on. We could keep you on for an hour, but we've got to move on with our agenda in respect of President Mason's time and everyone else's time as well. Thank you so much. And I look forward.
Evening and good night.
Good night. Thank you. Look forward to having you back on next month. And without further ado, moving on to the next item on our agenda with the University of the District of Columbia update from President Ronald Mason Jr.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. Always happy to talk about UDC. There's a lot going on, so let me just give you some of the highlights and then open the floor for questions, because I know you have questions that are foremost in your mind. First, I'm assuming that you know that I've announced that I'm retiring as president by the end of June 30, 2023. I came with a 3-year commitment. By the time my contract is up, it'll be 8 years. We think we position UDC in a place where it can attract some pretty good talent to pass the baton to. A couple of highlights. I don't know if you know, but one of our young scientists under 40 won the Waterman Award, which is NSF's top award for faculty and researchers under 40. First in the DMV to win such an award. When I got here, we weren't on the list of US News and World Report top HBCUs. We just hit 17, best in the country, and number 7 public HBCU. And so I don't usually put much stock in those rankings, but when you get them, you take advantage of them. And that's a jump of 13, even put us ahead of Bowie State, which is right up the way there. And so we're sort of getting noticed now. And our law school tied Yale for number 5. And when you add those rankings with the fact that we're coming back now enrollment wise from COVID. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot more students on campus this year. The retail is starting to fill in on 4250. Moms will be opening in the summer of 23. And they should be putting up a sign soon saying coming soon. The medical all care is waiting on a certificate of need. And they'll be announcing that they're going to be opening soon. We have a long list of folks waiting to take over the other retail space there, especially the Acacia Corner. And on 4225, the old Walgreens building, we're starting to do some major renovation on campus. And so we're moving a lot of people around very often. And we're probably going to use that for swing space in the short run until we get some more renovations under our belt. And so, that is some of the highlights. And I'll open the floor for questions and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, President Mason. I'll start with the commissioners and then community. Have we got any commissioners with any questions?
See David Weinberg and David Christie.
Yeah, I guess I do have I raised my hand the old-fashioned way, but so President Mason, it's good to hear about the accolades. What's the enrollment's up? What is the enrollment now for right now, if you've got that?
Yeah, it's up about 500, well, about 300 compared to last fall. It's around 3,500 now. Most of it is up in the community college, which had about a 15% or more increase, but that's where the biggest loss was as well during COVID. And we have a lot more students coming back face to face, which is a good feeling. And if you've noticed in the neighborhood here, you can just see the fact that there's more students back. Sure, and I think I think we're trending in the right direction. So I'm encouraged by the numbers.
That's great. And one more follow-up question. Speaking of students on campus, any highlights or preview about your student housing that's in your plan? We'd love to see, we'd love to see that, relatively soon if that's possible.
That's not it won't be in my lifetime as president. We've hired Brailsford and Dunleavy to do some project management for us, but also to do some work on feasibility of housing. We've been talking to the chairman about providing some housing. We've looked at the Intelsat building where they have dormitories built in there. And we've even talked to Howard about the land they have behind the law school there. And I don't know if you know Doug Furstenberg, but he's chair of our foundation, but he's also a real estate developer, and he's been sort of an unpaid advisor. So a lot of movement, but really no progress yet. I'm guessing though that it's probably in a best case scenario about three years out before we can open up there. Yeah.
Appreciate that. It's good to hear that you've got the sites in mind that are on everybody's radar screen. So just keep plugging away and let us know how we can help support this.
We will do that.
All right, then we've got questions from Commissioners Meta, Wall, then Appa. And then I'll go to the community.
Hi, President Mason. Thank you for joining, and congratulations on your retirement. I know you will be missed. We appreciate your ongoing community engagement, and I hope that whoever steps into your shoes will be as engaged and as great a leader for UDC as you've been. And on that note, one thing that's been on the minds and really the subject of conversation in several of our meetings, and Juanita Gray can attest to that, is the wonderful accommodation that UDC has made for the Feed the Family Pantry at the old Walgreens space. I believe that commitment, you have extended that commitment till the end of October, and really just want to take this opportunity to first say thank you for that. It's been incredibly appreciated and very much needed in our community. And B, to ask that, you know, as you guys will go forward to plan this wonderful retail space, which the community very much welcomes as well, that we keep the needs of, and UDC keep the needs of Feed the Family Pantry in mind, and hopefully be able to accommodate some space for that incredibly important operation going forward. Just hope that that's at the forefront.
Yeah, we will. And, you know, because we've decided to use it as swing space, that increases the chances that they'll be there a much longer period of time. And so we haven't told them that yet because it's not quite solid, but I think they'll be in good shape for quite some time.
Thank you. That makes me smile, and I really appreciate that. It is terrific, excellent news. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Echoing everyone's thanks, President Mason, for your service to UDC and to the community more broadly. We'll absolutely be sad to see you go, but appreciate everything that you've done in continuing to push the university forward. My question is very much related to the previous question, and you mentioned the use of the Walgreens space as swing space. But one thing that we continue to be focused on, and you've heard from us in the past, is getting that space activated on a permanent basis, to bring vitality back to the commercial corridor. Can you comment on what the status will be for that space, as well as the other vacant storefronts that still exist in the law school building, as well as any portions of 4250 that will not be moms?
I can. In fact, I saw in the chat that people wanted to know the square footage. And so the square footage that is not currently in conversation. It's about 5,000 square feet on the north end of 4250. And then let's see, 4340 would be the law school. And there's 2,000 square feet, another 1,000 square feet, another 1,500 square feet, and another 1,900 square feet. And so now the people we've been talking to range from Panera Bread to Bagels and Baguettes to Lito's Pizza, Sheila's Bakery, the Little Gym, Whale Tea, Busboys and Poets, East Moon Hibachi, and Thompson Hospitality Concepts. And so, our agents are sort of beating the bushes. Some are a little more, real than others, but there's a lot of conversations going on, and we have less and less space available.
Are there?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Are there any tools or incentives or support that the city could provide to help in getting that space filled that we might help to advocate for on behalf of UDC and the corridor?
Well, I can have my folks talk to you, but what we're finding is that because of our capital budget, we're having to make deals that have them do most of the build out. And then we have to, back it out of the rent. And so if we had, more in our capital budget and we're going to put that in there. And as you've always done, you've been supportive in our efforts at the council. And so stay tuned for a line item in that regard in our capital budget, and we'll let you know.
Yeah,
how-
definitely let us know how we can help in any way we
Yeah.
can.
I will. Certainly will.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Commissioner Appa.
No, Commissioner Wall answered my questions, and thank you so much, President Mason, for your continued support over the years, and we're happy to see you retire. Hope you're planning something fun, and hopefully we'll see you around.
Well, actually, I'm tenured at the law school, so you may still be seeing more of me than you want to. And I live in the neighborhood, so. But I noticed David Weinberg had his hand up first, and I don't know if
So we start with the commissioners and then we go to the
Oh,
community.
he's not a commissioner. I'm sorry. Okay.
No worries.
Pardon me for trying to run the meeting.
No worries, but Mr. Weinberg and then Mr. Bardeen.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. David Weinberg here. I am a 3-month resident in the neighborhood, having moved here with my wife over the summer from Olney, Maryland. So we're very pleased to be here. And I've been very pleased and very impressed, President Mason, about what you've discussed today about the retail development. When we came here, I would look up and down Connecticut Avenue to the communities south and north of us, and there's bustling retail and lots of activity, both daytime and nighttime. And I said, where's the action here along our community? And I was really pleased to hear you talk about the retail development, because all of the empty storefront space really just creates that void, especially when the business day ends. So I was extraordinarily excited. And principally, those were my comments today about asking about what is the plan for retail development, for restaurants, for other use of that vacant space. So I'm really excited to hear about that and looking forward to seeing the developments happen. So my point was raised and asked and answered even before I had a chance to speak. I thank you very much for joining us tonight and for your service. Not that I've been able to observe it over the years, but I've been able to observe it over the last few months. So best wishes to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome to the neighborhood.
Well, thank you very much.
Mr. Bardeen. You can unmute. David, I just need you to unmute.
For me to unmute?
Unmute. Am I unmuted now?
Bardeen, yes, you are.
Okay. Hi, President Mason.
Hi, David. Good to see you.
I'm looking for two questions about enrollment, and there may be estimates rather than hard numbers. One is as to your present enrollment. How many, what part of it, fraction of it is people that are not residents of the District of Columbia?
So about 60% of our students come out of DC public schools. And then, so it would be about that 60% are residents of the district. About 80% are residents of the DMV. About 10% are international or were before COVID. And then the rest are from all over the country.
Okay. And then thinking about future enrollment, do you have an estimate of what's the impact, I assume negative impact, of the subsidies the taxpayers are giving to DC residents not to go to UDC?
Yeah, well, we know the impact. Well, I don't say we know.
Can you turn it into numbers or percentages or a rough estimate or not?
Yeah, I can. So you're talking about the TAG program, which pays every high school graduate $10,000 a year to go to any public school in America besides UDC. It also gives $2,500 to go to any HBCU that's private. And it also gives $2,500 to go to any other school in the district besides UDC. So from an enrollment perspective, it's a challenge in a couple of ways. One, it slices off some of the better prepared students. And look, I've accepted the reality of TAG, so I'm not arguing against it. I'm just stating the facts about it. And so it slices off some of the better prepared students and, ships them out. And so from an HBCU perspective, for example, a lot of the students at some of the largest enrolled HBCUs, Morgan, Bowie, and North Carolina A&T are subsidized by TAG. And so, from our perspective, to be the only public university in the district, that have to, I've never been in a jurisdiction where a jurisdiction paid its students to go somewhere else to school. And so that is a challenge. But having said that, here's my long-term perspective. I really do think that the people in the district, it's hard for them to see UDC for what it is and what it will be. And I'm going to give you I'm giving my convocation speech on Wednesday, but I'm going to mention this. I found out that the first George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, they all envisioned the creation of a public university in the nation's capital. And in the home rule charter for the district, that vision was realized in the University of the District of Columbia. And he said that there were two keys to the success of this democracy. One was West Point, and the other one is the University of the District of Columbia. And if you think it through, it makes a lot of sense. And so, as TAG fails to keep up with tuition, and the parents who have children in first and second grade now in DC are going to want a high quality public alternative by the time their children goes to college. And I think TAG or otherwise, I think UDC is going to be that high quality alternative. And people are starting to see it more and more and more. Because we're designing a school that's going to serve the entire district, no matter what the income level, no matter what the race, creed, or color, because we are the public institution of higher learning and in for the nation's capital. And so that's the foundation we've laid, but I think it's going to take a minute for it to be realized. That was a long answer to the question, but I was practicing for Wednesday.
Well, I'm glad to hear.
Thursday.
Okay. We're going to have a trial run today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good to see you again too, David. I hope you're doing well.
Like same here. Let's get together.
Sure, give me a holler.
We'll do that.
We definitely appreciate your connection to the community and being so just accessible to us in the community. Have I got any other questions from the community for President Mason?
There's a question in the chat, Commissioner.
There's a question from Ms. Barbara Kraft. Many of us would love to see the Martha Jackson Jarvis Spheres remain on the UDC campus. Can the Commission on Arts and the Humanities help get public and private funding for that project?
Those are the balls, right? Next to, somebody's gonna have to explain them to me. Are they famous? Are they done by a famous artist? I have no context at all.
She's a famous artist.
She is a famous artist. Okay. Well, we've been struggling with what to do with them because we're going to redo the entire front of the campus there, from the law school all the way over to the student center, and we just don't know what to do with the balls. Now we're willing to talk to anyone about their value and their proper placement. But they just don't seem to fit in what I think is going to end up being the main entrance to our campus before it's all said and done. And so if somebody wants to get with me to have a conversation about what we can and should do with them, I'm more than open to the conversation.
We've got a comment or question from Gloria Garcia, who has Van Ness Main Street. Maybe she can help out.
Gloria, yes.
Hi, President Mason. How are you?
Gloria. Good, how are you?
Good, good. First, I want to thank you because UDC is our #1 host for Art All Night on Friday night. So thank you again for the use of the law school, the driveway and the amphitheater, and for the amphitheater all summer long. So thank you. And for my office space, which is in one of those retail locations. But thank you. So I just wanted to let the community know that UDC had notified us, Van Ness Main Street. And so we did a call to see if any private collector would like, to figure out what to do with the spheres and music. So we did connect somebody from Potomac, Maryland that is in conversations, I think, Mr. Gil Azarovitz, who was interested in either moving some of it or all of it feasibly to his property in Potomac, Maryland. So I don't know where those conversations are, but we were trying to help. So
Thank you. Are they worth money?
I don't know. They were it was expensive to install, that's for sure. And they're going to be expensive to move. But I reached out to the artist who is in Baltimore and I never heard back. So if anybody has any connections to the artist personally and could reach out, that would be another way to try to figure it out.
Got it. Okay, well, we're willing to cooperate. Let us know what we can do. The status of the property, I guess that's the fields. So we're turning those into what they were originally intended to be, which are athletic fields. One will be a NCAA regulation tennis / lacrosse field. And then the other will probably be a practice field and an intramural field. The students pay a fee to use those fields, and they haven't used them since I've been here. And so it's time that we give them back what they're paying for.
You and Mr. Bardine.
I just want to add on the balls, Mr. President, I'd like to add that to our agenda when we meet. I have some thoughts for you on them.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, well, thank you. Seeing there are no additional questions. Thank you so much, President Mason, for taking the time to meet with us as always, to join us during our community meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity. See you all later.
All right, bye-bye. Now, moving on to the next portion of our agenda is DC Water to give. So each month they give an update, and we're allotting about 20 minutes for them because they're with us each month. So see Mr. Gerald Johnson. Okay.
Yep. So I'll start off. Chairperson David Emmanuel. So as you all know me, I'm Emmanuel Briggs, the Director of Community Affairs in our Office of Marketing and Communications. I want to thank Chairperson David and the other esteemed commissioners of ANC3F for inviting us out every month to give you an update on the project. That is one reason why we're here. The other reason why we're here is to provide lots of great updates that we have that we are confident will address some of the longstanding and increasing questions that not only members of ANC3F, but that the community at large have had regarding our construction processes, kind of where we are, schedules and things of that nature. So with that said, we'll kind of jump into the presentation. I'll take you through the first group of slides and hand that off to our contractor. Review the project benefits, the construction update. Go back real quick, Jarrell. Yeah, project benefits, construction update, and again, community concerns. So we have in all of our meetings and our internal, external discussions, we have pretty much compiled a list of what we feel or what we have deemed, what we have compiled as the master list of what some of the community concerns are. All right, Jarrell. All right, project background. So as you all know, we are working at 6 sites throughout the Soapstone Valley Park, in addition to Alpha F-117. And in doing so, we're looking to rehab about 6,200 linear feet of sewer pipe, repair 2 impaired stormwater outfalls. And finally, we're going to do some soapstone stream restoration to ensure asset protection. All right, Jarrell. Project benefits. We want to always start with the benefits. There's lots of benefits. I know there's lots of construction burdens, but we want to always bring it back to the benefits of this project. The project mitigates the risk of major sewage spills into the park. I think none of us want to see hundreds of millions of gallons of raw sewage flooding through the park into the streets, into our homes and basements. I don't think any of us want those kinds of things. So we certainly want to mitigate that risk. We want to ensure long-term safe recreational use of a valued community asset. We want to protect the park trail and replace invasive species with native species. We want to stabilize the creek channel to reduce erosion and reconnect to the natural floodplain. And finally, we want to reduce unwanted odors from the sewer and the manholes. I know I would want that. All right, Jarrell. Construction update. So our permitted construction hours, and I know we have gotten lots of questions and issues and concerns about the time that work is starting, what days we're permitted to work. So we just want to put that up front. We are permitted to work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday on this project. So our tentative October activities, and we'll get into more scheduled things later in the slide deck. Continuation of the stream work at sites 1 and 4, bypass pumping at site 4, site 5, and site 6. Rehab of outfall F-117, and this will include a concrete truck and traffic control along Albemarle Street. CCTV work at site 4, site 5, and site 6. And finally, traffic control at Broad Branch Road near the park entrance for CCTV activities. All right, I'm going to quickly show you some photos, but this is basically the current status of all of the various sites. You'll see the percentage of completion for each one. You see at sites 2 and 3, we have completed the stream work. Again, I know we have gotten lots of concerns about the level of noise and things at site 1. When is this going to be over? Can we get some relief? Sorry about that. And so we're going to give you an update on where we are with site 1. Andrea, go forward. And these are just photos of where we are with the various sites. Site 1, some of the other sites. And then one of the other concerns I know we received in some of the emails is, defining what those terms are. So in this slide deck, we're also starting to give you definitions of what some of these terms are, such as stream work. And so we'll get into a lot of that again as we get further into the slides. Here, I'm going to hand things over to Kevin and Nick. They're going to take us through the crux of what some of the community concerns have been.
Yes, thank you. So the biggest concern I think we hear back is the noise from the pump around. That is a requirement we need to, one, not only keep our crew safe as we work, but access the area in order to complete the work itself. We're currently working on site 1 in the F-117 outfall, which will continue until about December of this year. We've created and we have sound attenuating provisions that has averaged 50% below the 80 decibels allowed by the DCRA. And as we noted as well, the construction of the F-117 outfall is now complete. Tree removal. I know that's another big concern. Originally for the MPS permit, there was 371 trees marked for removal. For our contract, we were allotted 275. To date, we've only removed 177 and anticipate another 20 more. That has a savings of 85 trees and 53% overall. Once we complete the project and the final stages, we'll have tree planting of around 270, 1,118 planted stakes, 500 forbs, and 300 shrubs. Site 1 is the remaining for any kind of tree removal we have, which we anticipate to start in November. That has the remainder of the 20 trees overall. Boiler permit. Before we can begin our work, a boiler permit must be obtained from DOE. The DOE currently has that permit, and they have posted a notice of public hearing, which can be found in the link below. That will also be on October 11th at 5:30. This is a QR tag that will take you to the boiler permit information and the area that you can comment to the DOE for your concerns. CAPP schedule. We anticipate starting our CAPP in November once we do obtain the permit. It will begin with bypass, including CCTV, manufacturing lines, and then actually installing the liners themselves. As you can see, we sequence from site 6 throughout the park, all the way up to site 1. Phasing. Submittals and permitting are ongoing process for the overall project. Tree removal is complete except for those 20 that we anticipate. We anticipate that beginning in November. Then with the follow on that, we can finish our clearing and then construct the final little bit of pathway at site 1. Site 4, or phase 4. That will begin at site 6, moving backwards. As you can note on the very bottom is where the manholes that we would start. That's within the park, moving our way up, finalizing at Albemarle and Audubon. Stream improvements is an ongoing thing that everyone has noted. And then you can see sites 1, has ongoing as about 45%. Sites 2 and 3 have now been completed. 4, 5, and 6 will resume once we complete our CAPP work and follow on from there. Lastly, we'll complete our vegetation replacement with final walkthrough and punch list items as required.
Good evening, everyone. I feel like I know quite a few of you, but I'm William Elledge, the Director of Engineering and Technical Services for DC Water. I want to start off by saying that DC Water is just as concerned as everyone about health and safety. And one of the questions that we've received is specifically about that health and safety in regards to the use of the SDS. SDS stands for Safety Data Sheet. There's a few bullets on here about what the SDS is, and it basically represents the federal standard, and we're complying with all the local and federal regulations. The point I'd like to highlight on this slide is that last bullet here on the screen. We're sampling the ambient air to determine any compounds that might be emitted through the process. That analysis is not limited to the ingredients included on the SDS. We'll be sampling for everything that is on the EPA's TO15 list. TO stands for toxic organics, and the TO15 list is it's a procedure with a list of compounds that the EPA maintains. On the next slide, there has been some question as well about the PIDs. PID stands for photoionization detector. As to the appropriateness of the PIDs, we're confident in the PIDs. They do have to be calibrated properly. But the experts working on this project know how to do this calibration. And also to demonstrate the effectiveness of the PIDs, we'll also be using GCMS instruments, which you see a picture of here on the slide. And I do ask that everyone recognize that while a PID doesn't analyze each specific compound like a GCMS does, it is testing for the total VOCs, which of course then includes each of the components that make up that total. So it is significantly more conservative than a GCMS when looking at that total concentration. Just real quick on the GCMS still, Jamal, these units will be used on site to test for each of the TO15 compounds. Well, I guess that's actually about it on this slide. On the next one of the other questions that requests that we had received, it was about the sewer laterals. There was a request that we change the location of the plugs to the downstream side of the cleanout, which is a change that we'll be making. You can see here on the screen, there's that little brown bar on the downstream side of the cleanout, which is the circle between the house and the line. And this graphic just shows that we're putting the plug on the downstream side of the cleanout, as requested. In addition, we'll be submitting a field report to DOEE, a daily field report to DOEE if there's any exceedances. We'll be reporting on each project area. We'll be producing a community report, which is written in layman's terms and targets a 10th grade reading level. We'll also be producing a more detailed emissions testing report for DOEE. We'll share this document with anyone who requests, but just want to note that it is a very technical document. and a background in chemistry will be helpful. This document will read like a graduate report in chemistry. Then at the very end of the CIPP work, a final report will be produced and available for download. This will be published by WRF on their website. WRF is the Water Research Foundation. And speaking of WRF, on our next slide, I have some information about them. We've actually hired AECOM, a consultant, to produce our AQMP. AQMP stands for Air Quality Monitoring Plan, but we've hired WRF, which is the Water Research Foundation, to facilitate execution of the air monitoring and testing described within that AQMP. WRF they're a nonprofit whose mission is to advance the science of water to improve the quality of life. And they will execute a separate subcontract with the University of Texas at Arlington to conduct the air monitoring, testing, and reporting. So DC Water will have no direct contractual relationship with UTA. We will, of course, be coordinating site access for UTA and such, but DC Water won't be directing them in the preparation or the analysis of the results. And on the next slide, there's been a question brought to our attention about the potential conflict of interest. On the right side of the screen there is a screenshot of a portion of WRF's conflict of interest policy. We'll share these slides with you so you can read the entire section that is shown on the right side there. But the third bullet is the one that applies specifically to this situation. And I have kind of a dual screen going on here. So each member of the board of directors of WRF must excuse themselves from all discussions on any proposals related to any organizations that they are directly involved with. All board members adhere to this conflict policy. And then from here, I'm going to pass it back to Emmanuel, who's going to share a little bit of information about our outreach plan.
All right, thank you, Will. So we as DC Water only hope that in all of these meetings and conversations and discussions that we have exhibited, demonstrated, showed that we are committed to maintaining a close working relationship with impacted businesses and residents. We do provide the weekly updates to our email distribution list. I know on the recent one that we sent on last Wednesday, we provided a snippet of some of the updates we provided tonight, like the boilerplate permit, the boiler permit update, and the latest newsletter. Receiving input from the affected neighbors through community meetings and presentations. That's what we're here for. We want to engage. We want to get those questions. We want to answer those questions. Attending the monthly ANC meeting, we are happy to come out every month to provide you with updates, and we will do so until this project is no more and the park is a beautiful, lovely thing that it should be. Distributing the monthly newsletter, again, we provided the latest one on last week. We'll do that throughout the completion of the project. Any door-to-door distribution of fact sheets and newsletters as needed, coordination with property managers in the area at apartment complexes is needed, providing aggregate reports to stakeholders. As part of this, we will be providing, again, as Will mentioned, the slide deck tonight, and as I mentioned as well, and the latest communications plan. We want you to take a look at those documents. We want your feedback. If there's some things in there you think that we can beef up on or sharpen up, please give us that feedback. We welcome that. All right. And again, just a little snapshot of the latest newsletter that we sent out. We welcome feedback on that as well. We try to give you everything we can give you in that newsletter. These two individuals here, Jarrell and Raisha, they are my right and my left arm, probably my right and left leg as well when it comes to just keeping up with the volume of community concerns and questions and issues regarding the project. So when you get those emails from soapstoneinfo@dcwater.com, not only are you getting the information from me as your Director of Community Affairs, but you're getting that directly from Jarrell and Raisha, who work closely with us, all the project management team. We try to get you timely updates and everything. So these are two of my superstars. I hope they're two of your superstars as well. All right, and we're ready for questions.
Thank you, DC Water, for that very efficient presentation. Have I got any questions from commissioners? Seeing none, Commissioner Meta.
Sorry, I was a little slow on the
No problem.
electronic hand raising. Some of us are used to manual hand raising, given our age. Mr. Elledge and Mr. Briggs, Emmanuel and Will, I think we can call each other that.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you very much for coming today. We have sent you a lot of requests and a lot of information, and frankly, in some cases, a lot of demands from the community. And I'd like to just parse a couple of those out really quickly and follow up on a few things. I know that there are a lot. For the community who is listening here today, I'd like to share that one of our fellow community members, Marjorie Scher, along with Professor Welton, who is an engineer and an expert in this field, prepared a document which I transmitted on their behalf to DC Water yesterday with a series of questions. That document will be posted on the ANC's website in the next day or two. In the meantime, I'd like to acknowledge and thank Mr. Elledge for listening to us in our July 15th meeting and adjusting the location of PIDs. I know that that was especially important to one of the community members who is experiencing air quality matters. Mr. Briggs, I think I appreciate the work that you have done around community engagement. I am curious as to when this will start, because I know that I and Councilmember Che's office continue to receive some pretty aggressive complaints from those living around the project area. And what I think would really go a long way, selfishly speaking for myself and probably for Councilmember Che as well, is some proactive communication. So in other words, to give an example regarding the noise, I understand the noise has to happen. We all understand that this is a project. We live in a city, everything is kind of on top of each other. But if folks, with all the folks working at home right now, if you could just get ahead of some of this, it would be terrific to give people a heads up before the noise is happening rather than apologizing later, explaining it later, just so people can plan their lives. I think nobody's disputing the importance of the project and that it is going to cause some disruption. But some proactive kind of getting out there with some of these things early and quickly would be terrific. And I appreciate the incredible detail on the communications plan and would suggest that anything the ANC can do to help to execute that, we are willing to do.
Excellent. Thank you for saying that, Commissioner. And we certainly understand the criticality of doing some of that proactive outreach. I know and I know that's just one small measure, but I know in the even like the email update, for instance, on last Wednesday, I know we touched on the concrete pour that's happening beginning the 26th of September. You know, we're starting to kind of do some of that forecasting for things that we pretty much figured would be of interest, be it noise, or sometimes just wondering what the heck is going on now, what's next, you know? So, you know, we're starting to incorporate a lot of those kinds of things. We certainly heard the concerns that in the initial weekly updates just gave stream work at Site 1, stream work at Site 4 with no, you know, description on what that is or what other kinds of things are you doing. So it certainly resonated with us that we heard the concerns that clearly, you know, you guys are running this project. We know you have a schedule of some activities. What is that? What are those activities? So this is certainly our attempt at blowing the doors open, as I'm going to use that term again, blowing the doors open and just kind of giving you everything that we have with the caveat that a lot of these activities are tentative as far as the schedule. And as you know, tentative schedules will change when it comes to construction projects, but we at least want to give you what we have and the most up-to-date information that we have, you know, in the moment. So.
Thank you. And I have to ask, this is more, I guess, rhetorical than anything. It's, and really this is for you, Will, and your team is, and this is going to sound a bit like a broken record, but I'm going to say this to get this on the record, which is I sincerely hope, I have learned a lot from the history of this project from many experts in our neighborhood, like Marjorie and others like Marlene Berlin, that DC Water will consider employing the UV the IPP process in other parts of the district where you undertake these kinds of projects, if it's at all possible. I'm going to put that on the record, mostly just because from what I've read and learned from experts, it really does seem like a solution, a technological solution, if it's deployable, that is sort of the least negative impact. It has the least negative impact on the environment and on people. That's my impression. I hope you guys will investigate that in future projects.
Thank you, absolutely.
We've got a question from David Bardine and then Marjorie Share.
No, I don't have a question.
Okay, all right. Marjorie Share.
Thank you. Hi, everybody, and thank you for that presentation. A couple of questions. Will you address several aspects about public health and safety, which we all really appreciate? And as you know, have you had a chance to read the document that Professor Welton and I submitted yesterday?
I'm on item number 15 of 17.
Okay, you're almost there. Well, that brings me to a point I wanted to make, and that was many on the call know maybe perhaps who Professor Welton is. He's a environmental expert and professor at Purdue University, and he's been working with health departments and with agencies since 2007 on 2017, pardon me, on CIPP. He's an expert in CIPP and resin chemistry and manufacturing. And he's called in usually after incidents occur. He's been advising me and us free of charge, and he goes into areas and advises not only utilities but health departments to prevent incidents from occurring. He and his team have tracked over 100 incidents around the country that have been funded by NSF and NIH, et cetera. So the report, it was really an evaluation or a response to your PowerPoint presentation. And then after August 30th, the more complete detailed report. And when we went through it, I was really shocked how many items there were. You're on number 15 and there are 17 of them. And so that was really shocking. I anticipated maybe 3. So, and thank you for changing the positioning of the PIDs and the laterals that go to the apartment buildings and the homes. Can you promise us that you will, thoroughly read the report, which I'm sure you have, and then consider every item and then actually respond and answer? Is there anything that is not consistent with your thinking? Is there anything that you object to? And if so, why? That would really help us out. One thing you mentioned was that the Water Research Foundation is going to hire or contract with University of Texas at Arlington. And you and I've talked about this before. It's funded by the industry. Can you find anyone who is not funded by the industry so that it's really remains unbiased? I mean, you know that to be true. So they're going to be hired to monitor the monitoring plan. And the monitoring plan, according to Professor Welton, is really deficient because it doesn't it doesn't show that there's going to be interpretable data, which is essential. So there's a bunch of action items that you've listed that lack, that will not protect the public. It will not go to public health and environmental health and occupational health. So my question to you is, would you really promise to consider each item? We presented not only the item, which we call a deficiency, but then the evidence, not only case studies, but peer-reviewed studies, and then a recommendation. The recommendations are 2 or 3 sentences of what you can do. And so if you've changed the positions of the PIDs, perhaps you could really seriously consider the recommendations and then become the state of the art that others will follow. We really want you to succeed, and it's really unfortunate that there's so many items that need attention. It's very, very scary for our community and for the communities that are going to come after ours. Thank you.
Obviously, we've prepared a report that we feel addresses health and safety. We're reviewing the report as our experts, and we'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, DC Water. Just due to time, I will move on with the agenda. And between now and next month, I can tell there's going to be a lot more communication between now and next month for your next presentation in October. But thank you so much for working with us. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now moving on to the next item of our agenda, and this is the section where we'll be voting on several items. We've got 2 more items. So we've got a resolution on Hearst Park tree reservation, and then after that, we have a public space permit item that we'll vote on before we adjourn. Commissioner Christil.
Yeah, I think hopefully you can see my screen. We're going from trees to the, I guess it's the eastern part of the ANC to the western part. So this is a resolution urging coordinated action to save Hearst Park heritage willow trees and improve community engagement. We've reported on over the, I guess it's been years now, and even with my predecessor and his predecessor, the Hearst Park and Pool project, which had been planned, I guess, in 2015-16, was going through design in the 17-18 period. COVID came along and it sort of delayed the construction. So finally, after a number of starts and stops, the Hearst Park and Pool has opened, which is a great thing. I mean, it's the ANC supported this for a number of years, and actually, we've worked with residents in our ANC, but also residents in ANC3C. And then not to get too far ahead of us, but essentially the park's going to be an ANC3A after January 1st. But this resolution is really to try and preserve the trees that are there. And I want to give a shout out to William Natselovich and Corey Levine, who couldn't make it tonight, but they're the primary authors that helped me craft this resolution. And it goes through a lot of whereases about the park and pool planning process, how we supported it over the years, and wanted coordination between Department of Parks and Department of General Services, which is overseeing the park construction, the Department of Transportation, and DOEE, to coordinate efforts to make sure that when this park was done, including the pool, that the drainage matters and tree protection and other associated matters were taken care of. And I've kind of highlighted some of the important parts of this. Whereas, and again, they removed about 80 trees in June of 19, and then it was, the construction was completed. And then we talked a little bit about the construction delays. And now fast forward to July of this year, there was can't pronounce her name, so you can see it on the screen, with DDOT, the Urban Forestry Division, looked at some of the trees that were near the construction site, kind of where the field is on the east, and I'll show a picture in a little bit. And what happened was there was at least one of these trees that was so damaged during the process that it had to be taken down. And so the part of this resolution that's important, I think, for folks is the resolutions. And so this resolution under highlighting, you see, be it resolved that ANC3F urges Department of General Services to announce the death of this tree and the risk to others, and post the July 25th report on the Hearst Park and Pool website. And these are the two most important parts that we want to resolve, is that ANC3F urges Department of Parks to organize a community meeting that includes all the relevant agencies and stakeholders, including the neighbors, by October 15th of this year, to describe the reasons for the death and to talk about how they're going to mitigate saving the other 4 trees that are right adjacent to that. And further, if they can't do this meeting, we want them, like DGS or DC Waters come to this ANC, we want them to come to our October meeting to describe what they're going to do in terms of mitigating that. So that's the essential part of the resolution. And if you let me stop share, and I can show you actually a picture of that, what that tree looks like. Back, share screen, share. And so this was a picture I took over the weekend. You can see there's 5 trees here. This is looking to the east. You got the new field facility, which is really great. So a lot of soccer games going on there. You've got the pool and the tennis courts to the right. But while they're doing this work, there's a lot of heavy equipment that they had to get in there to put the new sidewalk in, put that walkway in. And then when they were digging around, they damaged this tree. So this was taken down. And this is the reason why this resolution is there. So I'll stop sharing and entertain any questions from my fellow commissioners or anybody in the community. But again, I want to give a shout out to William Matelovich, who's actually, I think he may be an ANC3C resident, but he's been active in this effort. And then Corey Levine, who's a neighbor in ANC3F. So for the two of them, they've been working with us and working with the city and working with other neighbors to try and keep this, this project moving the way it should be. Thanks.
Have we got any questions? Thank you, Commissioner Christel. Have we got any questions from any commissioners? Seeing none, have we got any questions from the community? Seeing none, can I get a motion to vote on the resolution?
I move that ANC3F adopt this resolution to I move that ANC3F adopt this resolution regarding the Hearst Park trees.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item of our agenda is Commissioner Deepa Mehta.
I will make this short and sweet. There is a public space permit application pending before DDOT. It is number 386200. It is with respect to three parcels of land that have been subdivided for new residential construction, basically homes, single family homes at 4652 Broad Branch, 4654 Broad Branch, and 4656 Broad Branch. The public space permit request is to install a curb cut, a sidewalk, ADA ramps, all in connection with the construction of the new homes. I did a review of the TOPS website, and I have not been contacted with any concerns or issues by any neighbors or any agencies whatsoever. So I am inclined to ask for support from my fellow commissioners to go ahead and support the public space request. And let the relative agencies who are reviewing the particulars around stormwater management and trees and environment and runoff and all that and DCRA do their job, not hearing any complaints from neighbors. So can I make a motion to approve that? Do we need a motion to approve this, or am I just?
Well, yeah, but well, has anyone got any questions? Let's get any questions from any other commissioners or anyone from the community about this, about the public space permit. Seeing none, then we can move for a motion.
Am I allowed to make that motion or just somebody
Yeah,
else to make
yes,
it?
no,
I would
no.
like to make a motion for support from ANC3F for application 386200 for public space.
Second that.
Second. Oh, sorry.
David seconds that. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the motion passes. Thank you. And then we are now moving on to the next portion of our agenda, which is ending the meeting. But I wanted to really quickly just address Lieutenant Williams' presentation. There may be some discrepancy. We will definitely follow up with that because, you know, she was really sure about the data, but we just want to make sure that we have the correct data. And so definitely at the next meeting, we will discuss any discrepancies and allow Lieutenant Williams to talk about any of the discrepancies that may exist with that data. So thank
But before you adjourn,
yes.
this is a heads up issue. There's a vacancy on the DC Public Service Commission. And I ask that this ANC put the issues relating to that vacancy on your next agenda. And that you ask Amir if he has any information as to the process going to be taken to fill the vacancy. In a nutshell, the mayor has to nominate somebody to fill the vacancy. And the DC Council, I believe by a simple majority vote, has to confirm a nomination. As far as I know, there's been no nomination. I have no idea when the nomination will be made. Perhaps Amir knows. That would be interesting. But in any event, I put something in the Flowers Hills Connection this afternoon. I don't know if they have made it available generally on the kind of issues I have in mind. I do want to raise that with you. I think it's a very important nomination for the District of Columbia. It's partly the Home Rule Act, but it's partly law that precedes the Home Rule Act. And I won't take any more of your time on that, except to say that this is something that I do feel very strongly about and want to bring to your attention as an ANC and to all of the people who are on the council, either the existing council or next year's council, depending on timing, who will have to vote on that nomination.
All right, thank you so much for that, Mr. Bardine. We'll have that on the item, one of the agendas for the October meeting, and Amir is on the call, Al Moker and Abigail with Mary Chase office. And so we'll definitely be following up with them on how we can move forward with this Public Service Commission vacancy.
Thank you very, very much, Commissioner and Chair David.
You're welcome. I would like to make a motion to end the meeting.
Second.
All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so I will see everyone on October 18th. Have a good evening. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.
Good night.